I think the hardest people to let go of in life are the people that you still have love for. Because I think love is something that can easily blind you. I think oftentimes we can miss the red flags or miss the reasons why certain people aren't for us because of the love that we have for them. But I think it all comes down to us having our love for ourselves essentially outweighing the love we have for them. Because yes, you can still love a person, you can still have feelings for a person, you can still care about them, but understand that it's not best for you to have them in your life. Understand that it costs you your peace, that it costs you, it puts you through a bunch of chaos and a lot of suffering and a lot of trouble in order to have them in your life. And that is okay. And I feel like oftentimes we use love as an excuse to hold on. We say this person's been in my life for this amount of time. I still have love for this person. I still feel this way about this person. And yeah, while all of that might be true, I don't think that makes them obligated or it makes you obligated to keeping them around. And I know it's a hard decision to make because I've had to make it. I've had to say no to certain people. And, I think there's different ways to show different love to certain people, because I think sometimes love is better from a distance, because again, having that person so close can sometimes cost you your peace. Sometimes, it causes you to have to go through things that cause you pain and cause you suffering. And so I think sometimes love is better from a distance. Sometimes I think love is better in silence. I think sometimes you just have to see your heart and be like, I still love that person, but I understand what it cost me to have them in my life. Or, I understand that it's best for me to not have them in my life, because there's a lot of people that I have love for. There's a lot of people that I can truly say I care about, but I understand having them in my life would bring me a lot of different troubles, a lot of different issues. And if I continue to allow myself to chase after a person, if I continue to allow myself to keep giving a physical love, or keep giving a love where it was like I was giving it to them in person, or I had to be close to them in order to give it to them, if I kept doing those things, then it again would have brought me a lot of suffering. Sometimes I think we have to look at it and say, what is giving my love costing me in the end? Sometimes it's like to be and take it for granted. Sometimes people like to use it to their advantage, or again, some people just don't know how to properly reciprocate the love that you give back to you, or in a way, how to value your love, because sometimes we could give so much, and not that people are obligated to give it back, but sometimes it's like we're getting nothing in return, so eventually we have nothing more left to give. And I think love is something that you should give to people no matter what. I think it's one of those things where it's like love shouldn't be conditional. It shouldn't be something where, if this person reacts to you in this way, or they reject you, or they decide they don't want you in their life, that you should, stop loving them. I think it should be something where it's like you understand how to show up with your love in a way that, again, still protects your peace in a way. And real quick, if you're somebody who's in a season of trying to let go of people you still have love for, and you find yourself struggling to do so, be sure to check out my one-on-one coaching down below in the description, because it might be something that's for you. But back to the video. But I feel like when it comes to actually letting go of people you still have love for, I think sometimes it's, again, just distance. It's a thing of going through the process of letting go, acknowledging that you still care about a person, acknowledging that you appreciate a person, acknowledging that you miss a person, and not acting off of that. I think oftentimes we feel feelings, like we feel a desire to want to reach out. We feel a desire to, want to give somebody another chance. And I feel like that's often what love blinds us to. We let our love for a person create excuses for why they are the way they are. I hear all the time people be like, oh, they went through this in their past. This is what their ex relationship was like. And we almost make it our responsibility to try and fix them, or we think we're obligated to be patient with them because we have that love for them, or we don't want to go through that process of letting go. Again, I think sometimes you have to acknowledge when it's time to let go of somebody, and not allow your love to be the reason or the excuse to hold on to them. Because again, letting go of a person, distancing yourself from a person, doesn't mean you don't have love for them, doesn't mean you don't care. And I think we misinterpret the process of letting go, because we make it seem like, oh, we're giving up on a person, or oh, we quit on them, or oh, this must mean I no longer love them and I feel all this shame and I feel all this guilt. When again, sometimes it's just like I know what's best for me. I think you have to allow the love you have for yourself to outweigh the love you have for others, because I feel like when you allow your love for others to outweigh the love you have for yourself, you no longer show up for yourself. It's like you no longer respect who you are because you're putting others ahead of you. But when you actually have love for yourself, you'll understand like, yo, I love myself too much to allow myself to go through this process. I love myself too much to allow myself to go through all this suffering. I love myself too much to, again, put myself in a position where others take me for granted, where I'm getting drained, where, you know, other people don't value me in a sense. You know, I love myself too much to put myself into spaces that, again, just aren't good for me. Again, will drain me. Again, will make my quality of life constant suffering or constant chaos. Because we can give all this love. We can have the right intentions, but if we're giving it to the wrong people who don't know how to reciprocate it, who don't know how to receive it, who don't know how to value it, then again, we're the ones that end up having to take on that pain. We're the ones that end up having to go through that suffering. We're the ones that end up drained in the end. Because I remember around this time, not this time, but back like last year in like June, April, like around that time, I remember I was going through a little situation, and you know, this person like expressed themselves to me, and eventually they came back around and they was like, oh, I'm sorry for what I did in the past. I'm sorry that I did these different things. You know, I'm working on this. I would love to have you back in my life, but I had to, you know, choose to love myself. And it wasn't like in that moment I didn't, you know, kind of contemplate or kind of, you know, have a negotiation with myself of, oh, should I let this person back in because I do still feel a way about them, or I do still care, or I do still have love for them. But in the end, I had to make a decision of what's best for me. And again, in the end, I knew it didn't mean that, you know, I didn't still care about them or I didn't still have love for them, but I just knew my love was better off from a distance, because I couldn't allow myself to continue going through a loop, or possibly go through a loop again of allowing this person to walk in and out of my life as they pleaded, or allowing this person to just, you know, again, fall victim to their past traumas and their fears and stuff like that. So I had to make a decision out of love for myself. And again, in the end, it didn't mean I didn't still have love for them. I just saw what was the best way for me to show that love and give that love, which meant, you know, it being from a distance, essentially. And I feel like it's so important to not stop loving people and not act from a place of love, and just understand the best way to give your love, because I think on the other side of that, it's easy to fall into resentment. It's easy to fall into, oh, you did all these different things to me. You treated me this way, you decided to leave, you ghosted me, and it's really easy to hang on to that pain. It's really easy to you know, essentially hold on to the past and just like hold on to that resentment towards people for a long time. And I think that's why it's so easy to hold on to certain pain forever, because it's like we're so caught up in remembering how they made us feel instead of just loving them for the role they played in our life. Not that it made it okay, but out of a sense of forgiveness, to no longer hold on to the past and, you know, find peace with the situation instead of just, again, essentially just holding on to that pain or clinging onto that pain and the fact that they treated us in a way. Because you don't want to, again, love people conditionally. You want to love people from a place of, you know, I understand who you are at times. I understand that you make mistakes. I understand that you have a past, and I understand you're growing as a person. And through that process of growing, through that process of just, you know, figuring out how to navigate life and relationships, people are going to make mistakes. People are going to treat you in ways in which they didn't even know would hurt you in a sense. And so it's like having the love to allow people to be who they are without holding on to resentment for them not being who you wish that they were. But, you know, I really do understand why it's a hard decision, because it's been a hard decision for myself of, you know, finding, again, excuses to reach out to people, or feeling the urge to reach out to people and falling into that urge, and, you know, giving people a second chance. People might give you a sense of false hope, but again, I found that I had to get rooted in my love for myself. I found that I had to get rooted in my respect for myself, to not put myself at risk of going through certain emotions and roller coasters and uncertainties with certain people that had already consistently shown me who they were, or at least who they were for a while. And, you know, again, I love you enough to wish that you changed. I love you enough to, you know, wish you better in your future, essentially. But I also understand that I love myself enough to not put myself at risk to see if you've changed, to try and fix you, or, you know, fall again into created an expectation based off the words in which you told me, but instead I would rather just watch you from a distance, support you from a distance, reach out, when it makes sense, and not get in this loop of restarting things. But again, in the end, it's not always an easy process, but I think it's a process in which you have to look at it and ask yourself what is truly best for you in this moment, and not what does your heart or your flesh desire from this person, regardless of who they say they are. Is it always worth the risk? Is it always worth believing them instead of before you actually see their actions and stuff like that? But I love and appreciate you guys as always. Be sure to leave a comment down below on your thoughts on the video, as well as check out my one-on-one coaching down below in the description, and like and subscribe. I'm gonna catch you guys in the next video. Peace.